All right, my name is Rich Schmidt. I'm here with Russ and Keely Hayworth at Hayworth Estate Wines. It's July 29th, 2019. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate this. So let's start by asking, why wine?
I think it begins with passion. A love for wine. The yearning to learn more about it. Wine is constantly evolving, and I think it's a changing business, that new things are happening and new territories are being explored, and obviously we're a little bit proof of that. A little bit unconventional. You know, look at all the wineries around us here in the South Willamette Valley, and they're all in the hillsides and tucked away, and beautiful vineyards doing very, very well, and they're all successful. And we thought, well, what if we were to break that mold a little bit and put something on the valley floor? Thought if all those grapes can grow well in poor soil or lesser than perfect soil, what would they do if we planted them in some, really nice cultivated land, so to speak? So here we are on the valley floor.
Sure.
For me, I basically grew up in California, and seeing my friends grow grapes in Temecula and start a winery, it just were beautiful, and I knew I could never do my thing down there in California. Too expensive, and my family were in Oregon, and I knew eventually I'd end up in Oregon, and it happened, so here I am. Yeah. I did do all my viticulture enology classes in Allen Hancock in the Central Coast. Got my degree, and then as soon as I got my degree, I came up to Oregon.
So you knew you wanted to do wine fairly early on. That
Yeah.
wine was something. Was there a reason, something that sparked in you? Was it the beauty? Was it the nature? Was there something about it?
It was just the process, the whole process of it.
So when you decide, so let's back up a little bit. How did you meet and end up here in North Coburg?
Well, as a result of growing some vineyards and making some wine, I'd made a decision to have this wine processed and bottled at a local winery in Eugene, and where I was taking it, Keely was working there at the time. That's how we met, and then through discussing vineyards, and I needed some help with vineyard management, and she was willing to offer to come in and somewhat rescue some of the neglect my vineyard was experiencing.
I rescued it, all right.
I had to travel for other business, and hey, while I'm gone, can you maybe take a look and see what you can do to this vineyard and do whatever it needs? And when I get back from the trip, or when I got back from my trip, the vineyard was immaculate. And so,
And then he said, "Oh, we're planting another 10 acres. Do you want to help me do that?" And I went, "Okay." So we did all that Pinot Noir out there in the Chardonnay.
So I hired her, then I married her.
You can't let a good vineyard manager get away, so I guess.
That's right. Couldn't fire her, so I had to hire her and marry her.
Yeah.
And that's really how we began. And I don't know that I would have expanded, and I probably wouldn't have taken it to the wine level and marketing level that it is today if I hadn't met Keely and had her start by getting our vineyard in shape. And she just did a remarkable job, and here we are.
So tell me a bit about your background before wine. You mentioned the other part of the Hayworth business. Tell me a little bit about that, and then what kind of prompted you to put the first vines in the ground?
Well, I grew up farming here in the Willamette Valley. My dad was a grass seed grower for forever and ever, and I grew up as a kid learning how to drive equipment and work with the ground, and seeing the results, from hard work, learning the ethics of that, and seeing the rewards that Mother Nature would give you, when you were a good steward of the land, being grass seed crops at the time. And then my curiosity, I guess, of the end users of grass seed, of the products we were growing, drew me into researching how grass seed was being used on the other end of the spectrum. So I went from production to my curiosity of the end users led me to marketing and sales of grass seed to golf courses and sports turf managers and sod farms throughout the country. And long story short, I switched hats from production to consulting and working with the end users while still promoting the grass seed industry and supporting our farming operations. And from that, the wine thing just kind of came about from living away for a few years and then moving back and realizing, hey, there's this incredible business in the industry out here, and it's vineyards, and being able to have the time to go out and explore some of the local wineries, vineyards, and sample new wines. It was just like, hey, they're onto something here. So my love of agriculture and landscaping and working with the land prompted me to do some research and figure out what kind of vines do I want. I want to plant a little hobby vineyard. Let's see what we can do with that. And it was really just, I kind of wanted the look. And I wanted to just...
No, he didn't want to mow the grass.
I need less grass to mow. So I put in a vineyard. It's like, that's going to be less work. So I think I'd rather been mowing the grass. But dang little vines grew, and I managed not to kill them. And let them grow up. And I was feeding the birds for a few years before I realized I should probably try to salvage a crop, make wine out of it. And so I planted in 2006 as a hobby, not realizing I would probably make wine for sure. And then in 2012, we harvested, and that became our first vintage. So it's taken off from there, and we didn't mess that up too badly, so it's taken to the next step.
Yep.
Tell me about what the vineyard looked like when you first saw it.
A little bit neglected, to say the least. But yeah, we got in shape, and it looked beautiful, and we got a good crop, and yeah, it were good.
Had you worked in a similar valley floor type environment before? Were there challenges?
No, I'd worked on steep hills most of the time, so this was different and easier, a lot easier. Yeah.
Were there sort of unforeseen obstacles for you? As I assume you're getting a lot more. You have a lot more healthy vines here that are producing a lot of fruit. So was there kind of a learning curve in terms of how much fruit it could handle?
It does. Yeah, I'd say so, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
a lot.
We the vines love this ground out here, and they
Too much, I
they
think.
can love it. Yeah, they can love it too much and be a little over ambitious with the production. So we've learned to what to do with that.
Yeah, we have to
Those
drop quite a
overachievers.
lot
We have
of fruit. Yeah.
We drop some fruit and balance the crop load with what's good with the for the grape and good for the vines.
How did you decide what you wanted to plant here as you were first to start with, and then kind of as you were expanding? How did you decide what grapes to put in?
Well, to start with, it was those visits and tastings that I did at some of the local wineries, and obviously Pinot Noir was on the map and well established. How can you not like that? I mean, everywhere I went, I loved Pinot Noir. Everybody had good ones, but I found a few other varieties that I really kind of gravitated towards, Gamay Noir being one of them. There was a local winery that produced a Gamay Noir that I thought, this is different and this is really good. Why don't I try to do that? If I'm going to do this, I want to have what I want. So I was able to source some Gamay Noir vines and planted a small block, and that small block is, since 2012, has been our sole source for Gamay, and that's one of our most popular wines. It's what we're really known for. It's one of our signature wines. And then Pinot Gris, I had to have a white wine in there somewhere, so we planted some Pinot Gris because that was really good, and a lot of good Pinot Gris are produced here. So, we got in line there and planted that. It's a very small block. We produce about 25 cases of it, but it's been hugely successful.
Yeah.
Tell me about the kind of the experience, the first experience of harvesting for production, and then and sort of what the growth curve since then. So starting in 2012 when you decided we're going to try to make some wine out of this, and then kind of what's come next.
Well, I'll go back to 2012 when I decided these grapes need a better home than the birds. I actually blended my Gamay with my Pinot Noir just to have enough to fill up 2 barrels, and that was my 2012 vintage, was 120 gallons of a blend that we turned into a really nice blend, and it's we still have some of that today, and we're getting a little bit low, so we're sort of setting aside some of those bottles, and they're holding up very nicely. And then as that kind of peaked, or as that kind of got our excitement, or kind of like, hey, you know, we can maybe do this. 2013, we blended the two again, and then in 2014 decided the Gamay needs to stand on its own and get launched as a brand, and we developed a label for our wines. So we started labeling the blends that we had made previously, and then labeled our Pinot Noir and our Gamay Noir separately, as did our Pinot Gris. So that, and about that same time, you know, we had met, and she was involved in the vineyard and the winery and the processing and the labeling and everything to do with the business. And we decided, hey, let's take this to the next step, and then that led to expansion of the vineyard in 2015.
What sticks out in your mind about that time? Do you remember the successes? Do you remember the challenges? What about those years kind of sticks out to you?
Planting the new vineyard, it was hot. It was a hot year.
That was a challenge.
Yeah.
Planting baby grapevines in 100-degree heat in bone dry soil. Timing is critical to get water to those plants. So not only were we drilling the holes to put the vines in, but we had to be literally within 30 seconds of putting that vine in the ground, or sooner. It had to have water, because whatever moisture was in the around the roots quickly got zapped from the dry soil that we backfilled with. So we had to be right behind the planting with watering and getting all those vines in the ground, and 100-degree heat was not easy, and we had thousands and thousands of them to do. So we planted out about 7 acres as quick as we could with a makeshift crew a little bit, and hoping the heck we knew what we were doing.
And we did, because it looks amazing.
Yeah, we did something right.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
they got off to a good start.
Yeah, and we got first crop off that, which were amazing. 2 years, a year later.
Actually, we got a little bit of volunteer crop in 1 year. We planted bigger
one year,
vines.
and everyone was amazed.
Yeah, we planted bigger vines.
Yeah.
So we could kind of buy some time, and that did. It speeded things up. So we actually got a somewhat of a volunteer crop of Pinot Noir off that 7 acres.
And we wanted to see what
year.
we could do with it, and we made a very light rosé. 20 cases we got off it.
Yeah, I think something like that.
And we sold out.
Very good rosé.
It sold out
One-
completely.
in
We're
1 year.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
It's amazing.
I mean,
Yeah.
but we babysat the vines. I mean, we were passionate of having that. We wanted to have everything get off to a perfect start, and not just the start, but continue. And so a year later, we got that crop, and then in year 2, it yielded to full potential. So we really sped up the time clock.
So Keely, I want to back up a second with you, since we didn't really establish how you got to Oregon. So you mentioned school and then coming up here immediately. So what happened after you got to Oregon?
Well, the reason I came to Oregon was my family took a vacation trip 20 some years ago, loved it, came back to California and said, we're moving up to Oregon. I'm like, where's that? You know, came up, loved it, and as my children were in California, I couldn't really come up until they graduated, and when they did, I came up, and that's how I got here. I got lucky that when I did eventually move up, I was here for 2 weeks and I got a job doing the vineyards at a local winery, and then slipped into the harvest production, and then met Russ, and here we are.
Sounds pretty smooth. All things
Yeah,
considered.
it was actually. It's been pretty good.
Kind of like growing a vineyard. You plant it and it evolves.
I was very lucky and blessed. I can say that. Yeah, it was meant to be. It was meant to be with perfect timing.
And as you've grown the business here, tell me how your kind of roles have evolved and how you've sort of how the work gets done between the two of you.
It switched a lot for me because now I'm just trying to get this building and doing events. So that's, and I try and go in our little small vineyard because I call that my little baby and try and keep that one to myself. And then we get, other people to kind of take care of the big vineyards.
I think that a lot of what we do, we found out first we needed 2 gators instead of 1 because I'm out running irrigation or doing something, running the crew or checking on vineyards, and she had her work to do. And so the first thing we did was we got another gator because we were fighting over the one. And because there is a lot to keep track of after we did the expansion in 2015, we're out there with some extra acres and spread out. And we got a lot of those little baby vines that we're babysitting, and they all have to be watched. So the two of us combined to do that, and it's just finding out, just running things, keeping track of inventory, and now that we have wine inventory to deal with, it's knowing what to do with that, knowing and planning ahead of what we're going to be bringing in. It never stops. Those little vines are going to be picked. It's like a dairy. The cows have to be milked. It's not going to stop. It's not going to wait for you. It's got to be done. So planning ahead is, I think, kind of one of those challenges that so far we've done pretty well at. But you can't forget about it. You can't let it go. It's got to be in the front of your mind that we have a crop coming, and how much rosé are we going to make? How much Pinot are we going to make? What are we going to blend? All the different wines that we can make from Pinot Noir. We're so blessed to have that as such a universal grape variety that we can go a lot of different directions with it. And with the acreage we only have so much, and how much are we going to allocate to which wine? And like with the Gamay, we know it's going to be by itself, so it is what it is. And we did plant some more, but it's close to be producing. It's only 2 years old, so we're probably a year away from really getting anything off that to have more Gamay. And then the Pinot Gris, we did a little expansion on that, so we'll probably bump that a little bit this year. So those are the Gamay and then we have Chardonnay also, and so we have some really nice Chardonnays that we're making. So it's planning.
And we planted a little apple orchard.
Oh, really?
There. Yeah. Eventually we'll try and make some cider.
Nice.
Cider orchard.
Yeah.
Which I need to be out watering right now as soon as we're done.
Tell me about the process of learning to make wine. You didn't have a background in winemaking, so tell me about the process of that and some of the maybe unforeseen challenges of that.
I'll let Keely start with that. She's more involved with that than me, and definitely has the background on it all.
Well, I'm not really a winemaker, but I did take the classes, and I did learn a lot where we do make our wine with our winemaker. And but like I say, my role's changed now, so we are very hands-on with the winemaker of what we're looking for, what taste, what blends we want to do, and if we need to source any grapes in. And then you're down there too, because I'm more of the white person, the white wines. He's more the reds, so that's where we, get our little flavor notes.
I will never wear the tag of winemaker, but I will claim the wine taster. I will carry that badge with me everywhere. It's like Keely said, we're really hands-on and involved in the process from start to finish on our wines and what style we want to have, represent our wine, and different blending formulations, and where the winemaking comes into the chemistry part of it. That's kind of where I say, see ya. I'm not going to be that chemist, and I'm at my age and time in life, I'm not going to learn a whole lot more from here out with it. But thank goodness we have good people that that's what they do well. So if they can put up with us trying to get and search and develop that taste profile that we want, we've got some really good
Lots of
team
patience.
members, so to speak, that help us get where we want to be with our wines. And having done it for 6 years now, or 7 years, we have stayed with that same group, so they really know what to expect from us. And it's a lot easier than it was in the beginning. So it's kind of gotten to be, this is what the Hayworths, how they want their wine. So half the work's already done. But like they say, the good wine begins in the vineyard, and that's true. You're only as good as what your vineyard will put out.
So you mentioned your taste profile, your style. How would you describe it? What do you tell your team that you're looking for? What do you want a Hayworth wine to be?
Myself, I want to do unique flavored wines, something different. So we've always got that challenge of trying to do some different blends. I like more of the bold reds, and Russ likes the lighter. So I'm always saying we've got to bring some bolder, deeper reds in, and we have. We've got a nice cab.
She's right. I'm more that middle of the road, medium-bodied wine, nice balance, good mouthfeel, good flavor profiles. I have in my mind what I think the ideal Pinot Noir should be. It may not be the same as what somebody else may want, but I've learned to appreciate and develop more of a fondness and taste for the bigger reds, like Keely speaks of, Cabernet Sauvignon and the Cabernet Franc, and some of the different ones out there that we outsource because we don't grow those warmer season varieties here.
Yet.
We've found some good. We found some good sources for those, and those are really fun to work with. It's fun to taste them as an individual grape variety and what the true variety is representing, and then put your blending cap on and figure out, well, let's blend 80% of this with 20 of that, or 80-10-10, different things we've played around with. And we come out, every vintage we have a red blend. So in odd number vintage years, we have a blend called the Saddle, and that's a kind of the main body of it is probably Pinot Noir from here. And then we pick and choose some of these other things to put with it. And then in even numbered years, we have a blend called the Haymaker, and that's essentially developed with the same thought process. Let's take Pinot Noir as a base. Let's play around with what we can add to that, and have a big enough wine that it's going to hold up and satisfy the taste profiles that our clients want. That want that little bit bigger red, And then we did outsource a Cab Sauv and a Cab Franc that we have now that we're in our lineup, that's taken it to the higher level of red boldness.
And that's his nickname, Haymaker.
Haymaker.
That's where that came from.
Okay.
Something to do with Hayworth, that's my last name, and
Works.
being in the grass seed business.
Yeah.
It's a good literal nickname. I
And
like
the saddle comes from that little, right there, the saddle.
Yeah, the feature in the range there in the Cobrick Hills.
So you mentioned clients. Tell me about the local wine industry a little bit. Tell me about how you've found people and people have found you, and sort of the maturation of the area in terms of there's not a lot of wineries in your neighborhood. So tell me about that.
We have wonderful neighbors, and our community is just supporting us 100%. And they're all wine club members. And we get calls constantly, when are you opening, and when can we come over, and what new wines have you've produced. I've only been in Coburg nearly 5 years now, and it's definitely a wonderful community. Yeah.
Growing up in this area, you never heard about wine. This was a beer audience right here. Wine wasn't even heard of. And then when the wine industry took off and developed, what before we got into it in those years, a lot of the people from our area, right in this valley floor, they weren't venturing out to taste those wines. It was more people from the populated areas like Eugene going out to the wineries, and those were the people that were discovering the South Willamette, wines. I think since we really have developed our wine lineup and gotten it out there by doing small promotions or giving it away, and then finally getting with a wine club membership that we've developed, I really believe we have introduced a whole new group to wine that weren't into it before, and for whatever reason they decided to take that step and try us. Peer pressure, word of mouth, networking, whatever. We have really opened up a new market for wine lovers and you can tell that they're new at it. When there's a lot of education process going into explaining, and we think, well, man, how come they don't know this? But they're where we were 15 years ago, when I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, a lot of farmers.
So there's a lot of discovery going on. So our wine club membership is based on neighbors. We have great neighbors. We have great neighbors that are farmers that are amazed that they can drink a fine glass of wine and look across the fence and there's the vineyard that it came from. So we've really I think that's what I'm really proud of, is that we've opened up people's experience with wine and have enough of different wines to offer that they're starting to figure out and choose what they like. So it's been really gratifying to know that we've done this, and a lot of these people are people that have known me my whole life. They watched me grow up and driving by on a tractor and harvesting the fields with grass seed, and now I'm doing this, and they just kind of shake their head and say, we never thought we'd see you doing this. Well, get in line, because I didn't either. So.
I was going to say, you must have gotten some funny looks when you started planting vines here.
We did. When I planted the first block in 2006, people thought I was nuts, and I probably was for a little bit. But as a farmer and knowing how to take care of plants and take care of the land, I did grow them quite well. I didn't have them trained properly, probably like kids, But then my kids stayed there and hung in with me, and like I said, we finally got them in shape, and I think people really took notice as they would drive by. But it was quite a few years before anything ended up in a bottle. But I think that's when the light came on and people realized, hey, we're doing it. So.
You both have talked about events here. Tell me a little bit about sort of the development of this as an event space and what you offer and sort of the return you're seeing from that.
Like I say, we try and bring the community together. And they love coming out, and we try and do something different every time. We have a little event lawn that we had our last wine club member event on, and we got the tents and music, and then we've got these tents now, and we have, it's just wine club member events, and food, like every other winery. But being on this side of town, we try and create some other events that most people around here don't get to do, and it's close, which is good. And it's 5 minutes from Eugene and the freeway, so it's convenient.
We try to promote or market ourselves as doing different things. We don't want to copy anybody. We're not trying to be like anybody else, for a lot of different reasons. And we're finding out through the people we meet and network with is like sometimes less is more. We're not up in the mountains. We're flat, and we might have tractors driving by that are harvesting that field right behind you. We may have dogs running through here and unannounced and unplanned, and we're in this time of year right now. We're in the middle of the wind's picking up the straw from the fields and blowing it everywhere. So, it's a constant cleanup process with straw and dust, and this is a working farm. We're surrounded by it. But that's also the same reasons why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing is,
And I think that's why a lot of people come by, because they know that. They don't mind the dust. They don't mind the straw. Yeah. Because it is something different that they won't get any other winery.
And we always have plans of adding this and adding that, and trying to catch up with landscaping and try to give a presence of someplace pretty. But we're only going to take that so far because it is a farm, and we do have weeds around, and and the wind blows and things like that. But those are all the things that add to what we're about. That's why the grapes are growing good, because everything grows good out here. And so we are in a constant. It seems like constant motion of trimming or cutting or knocking something back to keep things in shape. But that's what gives us good grapes, and gives us gives us good wine.
So tell me about Hayworth Field and the motivation behind having a football field out here.
Well, that crazy me back in the day of getting into the other end of the spectrum on the grass seed business, working with golf courses and stadiums that have natural turf. I learned a lot in a lot of years of doing that, working with superintendents and sports turf managers around the country, and was fortunate to learn from a lot of good people in the grass breeding industry and turf grass development here in Oregon. And then taking that and learning what my customers on the other end in the golf and sports turf needed, what kind of products they were really seeking to get, and what they needed to perform like. And then I would take that information back to our plant breeders that were developing turf grasses here in Oregon, and basically being the liaison between those two parts of the industry. And then obviously once you get that, you have to have it produced for seed. So my network, including Hayworth Farms and other neighbors around that were grass seed farmers, that became the production network. So with the Hayworth Field, when I moved into this place in 2005, I wanted to kind of push back the production field and the hay pasture that was immediately in my backyard. I wanted that buffer, so I thought, nothing better than a football field, right? My backyard alone wasn't big enough, so I had to add a football field to the mowing list. So what I did was I planted different varieties and blends. Every 10 yards of this regulation size football field represented another team that I was working with that was using that blend. So I was evaluating, in one section might be the LA Coliseum, the next section might be Oklahoma or Arizona State, or all the different ones at the time. And that was I believe that was in 2009, 2008, 2009, when I put those in and basically evaluated them. Of course, I kind of knew what they were going to look like anyway, but I thought, there are little differences. So I took that information and then channeled that to new clients, new customers. So it was a research center, but now it's kind of all one big mess that gets mowed. The research part of it has kind of gone by the wayside. I just plant it to one I replant it about every 2 years, and I'll get the latest and greatest varieties of perennial ryegrass at the time. So it's just developed into that, and it's been a great conversation piece.
Does it get used as a football field?
No, it does not. It gets painted as a football field about twice a year. It's great for photo ops. We've had a car show on it. We've had weddings on it. We've had large corporate dining events, white tablecloths. We rolled an old truck out there, flatbed REO Speedwagon truck, used it as a stage. We've done quite a bit of stuff out there. And then, the best part is probably seeing little kids kicking around a soccer ball or throwing a football. To me, that's That's my reward.
That's awesome. That's
I
really
even
cool.
about soccer goals. So I do have regulation soccer goals. They're just not out there right now.
So tell me about, we've talked kind of about the local wine community, kind of how you've sort of introduced to kind of people who don't have another winery nearby. Tell me about the sort of South Willamette Valley in general and sort of what it's been like since you've become part of it and how you've seen it change and grow.
I think for me, it's opened up a whole new line of friends and friendships and people that we really enjoy talking and visiting with, and there's not any tones of competition or anything, and we're all in the same business. We're all trying to make and sell wine, but I never get any sense of a competitive it doesn't go down that road. And I don't think anybody else really feels it either. We're all in it together. We all love what each other does. We all get together on, somewhat regular basis, and everybody brings some wine, and we all taste each other's wines, and can't decide which one we like best. And, of course, we're all biased on our own, but other people like our wines too, and we've been real happy with meeting these people and learning a lot. Some of us that have our vineyards, there's different vineyard styles of management, and we all kind of bounce those ideas off each other, whether it be ground covers that you're using between the rows, or trellis styles, or thoughts on when to pick, and what to do with the crop load, thinning, all these different things. And us being relatively new to the business, I'm trying to be a sponge for information and take what I can get from anybody, but I think really it gets back to the meeting new people and developing new friendships, and feeling like you belong, and that you're partnering with some pretty good people and some pretty smart people in this business.
I agree. Like I say, not being here that long, I'm still learning myself. The Willamette Valley, yeah.
And definitely, I think one thing I will say is you have people that are really good vineyard managers, and then people over here that are really good winemakers, and they're in the winery all the time. There's not a lot of people that are both, that are all that in between, and there's some people that are pretty close to it, but there's it's kind of like everybody has their spot, and I think there's good communication. There has to be between vineyard operators and winery operators. It takes both to make things work. But I think definitely everybody finds their niche. I'd say my niche is in the vineyard, even though I'm new at these grapes. But somehow it's not that hard to learn. I think that's easier than if I was trying to learn how to dive into the fine tuning of making wine. I like to say I'm the official taster, and I know what I like and what I taste, and I'm learning more from that, from the winemakers of the little tricks and trades of the trade that they do to get you what you want. It's been really, really interesting. You never stop learning.
You talk about kind of developing these friendships in the area. Tell me a little bit about how the South Willamette Valley feels about its role in the industry. How does the Eugene area fit into the overall Oregon wine industry? If you have an answer for that,
I'll go first on that. I think my observation since I've been doing this is that I kind of get the feeling we're all down here waving our flag, going, "Hey, we're down here. We're at the bottom of the valley. Yeah, we know that. We're 100 miles from the rest of the well-known wineries up north that are doing a great job, that really basically pioneered and started the industry, and we feel like we're in the South Valley waving our flag to get the attention of not just the people drinking wine or wanting to explore wine, but it's the other members in our industry that are our neighbors to the north and up the valley. I think we sometimes I think we get overlooked a little bit sometimes, and maybe we're not around the biggest population area and everything, but I think we definitely have something to write home about. A lot of great wines down in this area. I mean, the largest winery in the state is down here in this end of the valley. And then you take it from here and even go down to Umpqua and the Rogue. They're really doing some fine things down there. Incredible varieties and a lot of new production going in that's really going to be good for the Oregon wine industry. So we feel like we have to scream and kick and yell and wave our flag to get attention sometimes, but we're gaining.
Yeah, we're gaining. Yep.
And I think that comes from a lot of that camaraderie that we bond together, and we're all good ambassadors for the South Valley. All the wine club members down here in this area, and as we build on those wine club members, though, that's just more messengers out there getting the word out. And in my travels for the seed business that I do, I'm always out there promoting the Oregon wine industry, not just Hayworth Wines, but the whole industry, and to people from other states that maybe they drink wine, maybe they don't, or maybe they want to learn more about it. It's like, well, okay, let's try this. Have you tried some Pinot Noir? Pinot what? And you just open up new ways of thinking.
Have you seen the kind of awareness, understanding of Oregon wine grow as you've sort of been an ambassador on the road? Have you seen in the last decade more people who know what Pinot Noir is, more people who know where Oregon is?
For sure, without a doubt. For every person that's maybe not heard of it, there's probably 3 that have, out there in the country and everywhere. It is really known, and they don't often pinpoint, or they don't remember, they don't know exactly which Pinot Noir or what part of the valley it even came from. They just know it as Oregon Pinot Noir, and it's on the map, and it's well loved. And I think in all my travels, if I go to places and strike up a conversation, whether it be in an airport or at a wine bar or a restaurant or wherever, people just know Oregon for number one Pinot Noir, but then it's getting, a lot of the other varieties are getting, known for Chardonnay and Pinot Gris, and then some of the bigger reds that are coming out of Southern Oregon. They're really getting on the map and on the radar screen with a lot of people, and it's just that constant word of mouth and the tourism organizations that are out there promoting the entire state and the entire wine industry. And I think, then you have the pockets of the areas that are promoting their area, be it North Valley, South Valley, Umpqua, Rogue. Everybody's doing a pretty good job, I think.
So what do you see as you look ahead for your future here at Hayworth? What are you planning, say, over the next 5-10 years? What are you hoping for?
Retirement. When I get to sit down and enjoy it. I didn't know I was going to have to start working this hard as I am.
No, we didn't, did we? Yeah. But we love it. We do. We love it, don't we?
We love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't. Like I said, it all started with a passion for it, and it just grows. I think, obviously, with our commitment and investment in expansion of the vineyards and our wine brands, you sort of develop something that you got to keep it going. Like I said, every year's a new vintage, and what are you going to do with it? And I think, I think we have to be attention given to more of the marketing side of things, and keeping the fire lit, and introducing more people to wine. Like I said, our wine club membership, I would say 90% of them are new to wine, relatively. But I think looking ahead in the future, probably a little more vineyard expansion. There's some things we want to try that we think we're confident will be good choices to make.
20 acres max. 20 acres max.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
The line's been drawn.
Yes.
It's one of those deals where whether you have 1 acre or 20 acres, you're going to occupy your time. You can occupy 100% of your time doing something. So just the more acres you have to utilize more with, obtaining labor and help and assistance and investment more with the hardware that is required to build a vineyard. My gosh, there's a lot of wire and steel and posts and all this stuff, and and then, like I said, we had to get another gator just to keep up with the 2 directions that she and I were going, and tractors and things like that. It's just, hopefully you just think one day, well, we're going to have everything we need. We're not going to have to keep buying that kind of thing. So it's kind of like, pump the brakes a little bit on that, and let's concentrate more of our efforts and our resources towards the wine line, and just finding that right balance of how we're going to operate the vineyards, and how we're going to operate the wine brand.
Anything to add to that?
No, I think he's said it all.
Do you have any ideas for, or any plans for kind of expanded events, expanded in terms of bringing people here? Do you have some sort of plans for that, or is it just kind of keep happening organically?
I think so.
Well, we're trying to be exclusive private events here. That seems to be what our property here is designed for, and that seems to be what the people want. They want something different. They come out here and they kind of fall in love with it, even though we think, oh, the place, we got to clean it, and there's straw blowing around.
They don't care.
Every place else I go, there probably isn't that. It's like, so maybe we'll just kind of keep it like it is. For whatever reason, they like it. So I think we'll just kind of keep that as our brand, and keep adding to a few little things. We are in the process of building a wine bar in downtown Coburg, which should be open this fall. We're really excited about that, and I think that's judging by the public information that we're getting from everybody out there, that they can't wait. They can't wait. They're really excited. So there's a lot of energy and push behind that to get that open.
Are you planning on using that as for your wines exclusively, or are you planning on bringing in wines as well?
Yeah, it's our wines exclusively. And then, like Russ said, we'll just use this as private events, large private events, wine club member events.
I think with the wine bar, there will be opportunities where we have an occasion now and then where we bring in a guest winery to do a guest pouring, because we've been invited different places where we've done that at other wineries, and it's really good. And I think that goes back to saying, we're all in this together. We're not competing, and you know what? There are some really good wines out there. Even though we love ours, we love other people's too, and we just have a lot of good friends in the business that we look forward to doing things like that with, and having them as a guest winery. And there's not that competition there at all. We're all gonna do well with it.
What do you see as you look ahead for the Oregon industry in general? What do you see as, like, for the next, say, 10 years of Oregon wine? Are there what do you see down the road?
Oh, wow.
Or what do you hope?
Well, calculated growth is what I hope for. I don't think we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see aggressive growth like we've seen with some other crops here in the valley or around Oregon, or as I call it, the fad crops that are out there that have already come and gone. Some of them. We're not going to invest in anything else outside the box. We already are outside the box with what we're doing here with the vineyard, but I think the industry is doing a really good job of self-policing any issues that come up anywhere in this industry. I think if you want to see an industry come together, just have something come up that's a problem, and man, everybody's on it. It's not about whether it's happening up north or whether it's happening down south. And there's been things that have been recent man, you get the mama bears in the wine industry, you better look out, because we're all going to look out for each other. So I think that's the. I think everybody's being careful, and it's an industry that pulls together and keeps things in check pretty well. We don't want to lose out to other states, and we don't want to get taken advantage of, and we're hardworking. There's the pioneers in this Oregon wine industry. A lot of them are still working, and we lost a few, but those of us that are still in it and still here, and the pioneers that I refer to that are still around doing it, they all learned from that group that started this thing. Just like we're a bigger group now, but we're all still learning from each other. So I think that'll continue to evolve. The Oregon Wine Board and the Oregon Wine Growers Association do a fabulous job of running and promoting and managing this industry and being there for the membership when we have questions, and when issues do pop up, they are right on top of it. It doesn't matter who you are, how big you are, how little you are. Your membership dues are met.
Absolutely. All right. Well, the final question I have for you, this is one we always like to ask when we have a couple that we're interviewing together. What's the secret to a successful marriage in the wine industry?
Drinking a lot of it.
Knowing when to stop. It's like you always hear it's give and take.
It's hard
Compromise.
sometimes, especially when you're together 24/7.
That's why you have separate gators, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of give and take. It's I basically yield to Keely. This is really, she's got way more experience in all aspects of it, from the vineyard to the bottle than I do. I learned from her, really, so it's not.
Well, we learn
too
from each
difficult.
other, and we're still learning. Yeah.
It's just two sets of eyes on everything instead of one, and what we catch things that maybe the other one doesn't see or know about, and it's constantly on your mind what to do in the vineyard, what to do in the wine side of things. We both come up with great ideas. We don't always do them all, but we both think of great ideas of what we're going to do down the road in the future, different marketing ideas or different production ideas, and as we travel and talk to more people in this industry and do the networking, that wheel never stops turning. You keep coming up and evolving. So it's kind of like the marriage. You grow and evolve like the vineyard.
Like it. Nice.
Yeah.
Is there anything? Okay. Well, that's all the questions that I have for you. Is there anything I should have asked that I didn't? Anything we didn't cover that we should have covered here?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I'll say this because we're unconventional, growing here on the valley floor, the first to really do it on this scale. And the naysayers that we can look 360 pretty much, and we can see know where our neighbors are in the hills, and everybody thinks, well, vineyard's got to be in the mountains. Well, we're proving that theory wrong. Not that it's anything, we love our vineyards in the mountains and our neighbors, but we have challenges and advantages that they don't have. We probably got better soil than most of them. That can be a great thing, and it can be too good for the grapes. So that's that balance you have to do in the management of the vines. The other thing we get good airflow here.
Excellent.
So we don't have, we're not tucked in a mountain or in a canyon or behind trees or forests or, that are trapping air, both hot and cold. We're in the open floor where we get that airflow, which is an advantage, huge advantage for to keep us from having disease pressure. So you get good airflow through those clusters of grapes. So that's an advantage to us. All of our vineyards are planted, with the exception of my hobby vineyard, on 10-foot wide spacing of rows. So with no mountains or trees around us, we get that sunlight at 6:30 in the morning, and we don't lose it until sunset. And we get longer daylight, sunlight hours than any vineyard around, even probably up north, because we are down here where we're taking it all. And that 10-foot row allows for a lot of time for that sun before that next row shades out the other row. So we really have some things going for us where I think it'll help us with disease pressure, ripening. We'll get good sunlight that warms the soil, and you get reflective heat off that soil that helps, add to your grapes. We do a risk we do encounter occasionally is we would be a little more susceptible to a late spring frost, which this year we actually got nipped in a few little cold pockets in our vineyard that kind of got dinged a little bit. But it's farming. It's not one thing, it's two. It could be something else, and we may have other challenges, but really I think we have more advantages than most. And we don't water. We did set up on drip irrigation because we needed that to keep the plants going in that first year or two. Since then we've pretty much abandoned it because our good soil and the rains we get has provided a really good root structure for the grapes where they've been able to go down and not hit anything, unpenetratable. They've been able to go down to where they need to be happy. And so we haven't watered at all, and probably won't, So, there again, it's just knowing how to work with the land, and if we were in the mountains, we'd be doing things differently, to facilitate location.
With the advantages you have down here in terms of more sunlight hours, better soil, do you have any thoughts on trying some different varietals? Do you have any thoughts on trying some hotter ones?
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah, we really do. And to back up on that, our climate's different than it used to be. I mean, there is this warming. I don't want to use the word global, but I will say there's a warming that this area has experienced in the last 20, 30, 40 years. Growing up here as a kid, I mean, I remember, Rich, you could almost set your calendar that Labor Day or September was the beginning of rainy season. And now it's 2 months later, it's beginning of November, if that. So we typically have had the luxury of some long, dry fall before going into winter. And we don't harvest till probably beginning of mid-October. But anyway, I think given the fact that we're warmer than we used to be, we're on this unique location, there's some thoughts into, and we have some land kind of marked off that trying to figure out what we're going to plant. It's probably going to be something a little bit different that nobody would expect.
We'll have to wait in anticipation.
Tune in. Tune in ahead.
Excellent. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for your thoughts today, for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome, and we'll go ahead and let you off the hook.